back inside the coach's office over off of Grimsley High School territory, back off the old terrace, with Phil Weaver today in charge of the coaches and the current games, East-West All-Star Games. Let's go back just maybe less than 2 hours ago. Had a very good girls game last night. I watched that girls game. That little girl from down east, the Skylar White, hit a couple key free throws, hit a nice field goal. She actually hit 4 free throws down the stretch.
Yeah.
Had a very good girls game last night.
When the crowd gets into it, it's a good score late, tight game, makes it all worth it. Unfortunately, the guys' game didn't follow suit.
Best thing about that, though, I thought about myself. I said, if I was one of Smith Barrier's proteges and had control of the paper, you'd still get the paper. Like, at the top of the paper, there would have been a headline, Ben L. Smith, Markel Gilbert, MVP, because that was just a great thing. I mean, to have that happen like it did, at least it kind of added a nice touch to the game last night. A local kid be the MVP, 18 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 assists. I mean, those are excellent numbers.
He played really well.
Mm-hmm.
While we're on the subject, I'd be interested to hear from people about whether we should start the girls' game at 5:30.
Mm-hmm.
Letting people get home early. What we want is more kids there.
Right.
Well, you looked up last night, and there are very few, 6 to 10-year-old, 12-year-old kids in the stands, and we really ought to have a bunch. I mean,
and that might make a difference as far as them going to bed earlier and stuff like that, too.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm thinking. Still see a little boys' game before they have to leave.
Mm-hmm. Because I was even thinking, I always thought 6 o'clock would be the perfect time, but 5:30 might be even better, like you say.
We moved the North Carolina-South Carolina game to 5:30 this year, and I was really anxious to see what happened, and it didn't hurt our crowd.
Mm-hmm.
So if it doesn't hurt it, then it's probably good, because your Wilmington people, northeastern people, they're getting home much earlier,
right.
1 hour earlier.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I talked to an official last night. He was leaving the game at the boys' game. I said, good luck to you down the road where you head. He goes, 2 hours down, 2.5 down the road, headed to Greenville. Headed down to Greenville. So, yeah, making a difference for everybody.
Yeah.
And back to the game at Wilmington this year. I think they had something on ESPN last week. They were doing the Jim Valvano Have a Dream.
But we didn't get credit.
But you wrong, didn't get credit, I guess.
That was our banquet with Jamie speaking.
That's what I thought.
And I don't know why they couldn't have put the Carolinas Classic, on the subscript, but...
So when does the special air about Coach K and Coach Williams that was filmed yesterday? When will that air?
Boy, now you want an interview? I got an hour and a half for you, just on everything that went on. But they're saying they're going to put it together late October, so I'm guessing it'll be the very start of basketball season.
Oh yeah, save it for the start, right?
Unfortunately, it's only on the ACC network.
Mm-hmm.
But Rob with Raycom walked out with me right off the floor. We were going back to the green room, and he said, Coach, 50 years from now, they're going to be watching this. We've got no tape of Woody Durham and Dean Smith. I mean, that's inconceivably negligent.
Sure it is.
How could you not have that?
I mean, that's your whole part of your
whole history. And so now we've got both of them, forever working together. And that's your phone.
Yeah, it is. I wish I would have thought about that before we came in, because it always likes to go off and tell who it might be.
You're important. You got phone calls. I don't.
Yeah, if it's a 336 number, I'd be good. If it's not 336, it doesn't even count. But it's a local number. Looks like Don Tilley. I'm with a coach right now. Don, check you later. There you go. That'll take care of that. But anyway, back to the subject. Talking about the games and stuff. For the ACC history, like you say, to have Coach K and have Coach Williams involved in that was just a great touch yesterday.
It was a blessing and a windfall, and the stars aligned properly. I mean, our 75th year was a good selling point. Both of them just having been out a couple of years at most certainly didn't hurt. I mean, I've been around long enough. At least I knew them, and they knew who I was when I contacted them and that sort of thing. And Roy and Mac are really tight. I mean, they're real friends. And their offices were very cooperative, and they didn't hesitate, and I think they enjoyed themselves really.
That's a good thing too, because people kind of wonder what have they been up to lately. Hadn't seen them in a while.
Yeah.
People hadn't seen them lately.
But what gracious people! Mike came in first, and he's talking to a group of people, and it's small talk, and he's having to tell stories probably told 50 times, and there's a boom mic right over you, and it's like these lights, and it's like, good grief, how do you do this all the time?
Right.
And then Roy came in as the same thing as he greeted people. He was like they were all friends he hadn't seen in the last 5 years or something, you know, and they're just remarkable people, and it's no wonder they were so successful.
And like you say, it makes you wonder about all those games they had over the years. They had to go out to the games and to go to those press conferences and go through all that so much time, and they put up with all that for so long and just kept rolling.
Guys can be a pain, you know.
Some of those press people can. I've seen that over the years, yeah, because especially the big events where you got all these people from everywhere in there. These days, you know, with social media now, you got all these different website guys popping in there from everywhere.
David Willoughby, our press guy, it's almost weekly. He's sending me something and saying, "Is this legit? Who is this guy?" You know, and most of them I don't know either.
Yeah.
Because everybody's got a podcast or this, and they think they're the press you are. And I mean, you've got a few years and some credibility, and these guys are upstarts, and you know, you don't know if they're coming to take pictures and selling them on the side, and undercutting the lady that works with us, or what.
Well, as far as it goes, the basketball was to a major degree of success because the girls' game again outstanding. We lost a few fans when the girls' game was over. A few people left out and went on because the girls' crowd is kind of different sometimes than the boys' crowd. We all know that. But that boys' game with Markel Gilbert doing what he did, I mean, that was just a great way to close out his high school career. And I asked him in an interview after the game, I said, you know, if you finish something out, you think about a player, you do all this work, you're probably done for a while. What are you doing tomorrow? Orientation tomorrow. I got to go down to NC Wesley and see Coach John Thompson, who was there last night watching him play. Go down to Wesley tomorrow or today and get his orientation in. And John Thompson, those that don't know John, I mean, he's been around for years. He's been coach at Wesley, probably because he was the AD there for a little while too, and he used to be an assistant at UNCG and Guilford College both back in his day in town.
And one side note, which nobody probably noticed much, but the last 15, 30 minutes of the boys' game, just down in the end zone, Tim and I were sitting with Tubby Smith talking.
Wow.
So we had 3 Hall of Famers at our event yesterday.
And Tubby Smith can pop in sometimes and kind of go unnoticed occasionally when he pops in.
He doesn't put on a show. You know, he just eases in and talks. And he used to recruit my kids, so that's where I know him from.
Exactly.
And just a nice guy. And, you know, and most good big time people are. They once you get past the lights and all, you know, they're just like you or me.
I used to see him at a lot of ball games back in the day. These local high school games, checking these kids out. But one thing too, I talked to Jeffrey Griffin, who's your PA man. I mentioned to him when I came back from the back room there. I said, well, I need to take your son, Jeffrey Griffin Jr., name him the MVP because he directed me to the hospitality room. Help me find because and I had to go through a room where it was kind of dark and found the doors and
it's way down there.
It's back in the back, but little Jeffrey Griffin Jr. directed us in the right place there. But that MVP, Marquand Gilbert, we call him Quan some now too, Quan Gilbert. Just a great game, and he made his first shot of the game, and then, you know, you make your first shot, you'll miss a few, but the total numbers almost a triple-double because he got the 18 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 assists, and he's a big kid, but he's a guard these days. He's playing guard.
Well, I talk to the guys picking the MVP all the time, just kidding them, and, you know, when the score got out of hand so fast, it was like, hey, you guys are going to have fun tonight. But then at the end, when you put all those statistics together, it was pretty clear that he probably had the best overall game of anybody.
Yep, had a heck of a game. And, you know, like I say, I wish the old days of the news and records still existed with Smith Barrier there. Because across the top of the paper, we could have seen the headline today, Ben L. Smith, Marquand Gilbert, MVP, East-West All-Stars boys basketball, but you just not able to catch all that anymore like we did back in the day. But I was glad I got it on my website last night, got that listed last evening, got that posted there, and then able to get the soccer bios up there. The soccer bios, I get some of the back. Marquand Gilbert, his bio was very short, very small, but those soccer kids, I'll give them credit, they had some long bios. They put some stuff up there.
Well, Juan was a little later joining us, and we had an issue, I guess, probably getting enough on him to put in there.
Correct.
The program has to go to print like a week out. That's what people don't understand.
Right.
Because not much is printed anymore.
Right, exactly.
You know, we're even thinking, you know, do we need to go to a digital program and you buy it off a QR code, and then just, you know, sell them a roster for $1 or something? I don't know what to do.
That's what the Greensboro Grasshoppers did. They cut out the programs because the baseball game used to be a big thing years ago. Baseball game, you get all the information. And nowadays it's all digital, but that's how it's changed. But the basketball went well last night. Good job at the Coliseum. And tonight you get outdoors, and so far, knock on wood, here today, the weather looks good out there for the soccer game.
Yeah, much cooler, isn't it?
Yeah, it's getting better. Yeah, getting better. The humidity's down a little bit too, which is always a plus.
Keep the rain away.
Yeah, keep the rain away and keep the water available. Keep it handy. I know Mark White and Ray, what's Ray's last? Ray Davis?
Davis.
Yeah, those guys will be out there doing a great job. They always do.
Yeah.
And those soccer kids will be ready to go around.
Well, actually, we have 2 athletic trainers who are women. It's Ray and Mark are now just basketball, and they oversee our whole athletic training facility operation. Yeah,
That's good then. So those trainers will be a big part of what goes on tonight, I'm sure.
They coaches are told if they say the weather is such we got to stop practice, we stop practice. If they say Andy is hurt and can't play, he can't play. You cannot override the athletic trainer.
I think I've seen some of the soccer games, maybe the East-West All-Stars or other games in this kind of weather, this type of year. I've actually seen all of a sudden, whistle blows, we take a break. We take a break.
That, yeah.
Just take
Half
a break.
Hour.
Just take a break, and we'll come back and resume in a few minutes. Necessary to take a break at that time. What do you expect out of the soccer games tonight? What do you expect to see out there?
I haven't seen him practice. I think you got so much.
And you were a
going
soccer
on
man
here.
back in the day too, weren't you? As far as your daughter was a player.
My daughter. Well, I had one daughter that won a national championship with the Charlotte Eagles, semi-pro, and played at Charlotte. And all 5 of our kids played at one time or another, and I coached all 4 girls. And so I was a soccer parent more than I was anything else. But, I hadn't even had a chance to talk to Herc as to who he sees as the favorite, so I really can't say. No. We got credentials on both sides, I can tell you that.
Right. Well, my thing is, I don't just go ahead and say it out front. I always pull for the West. Being in the West, all the way back as a kid, I've always pulled for the West. If the West does well, I feel good about it. I like the West.
I did until I took this job. Now I can't pull for anybody.
Exactly. Yeah, I remember not watching the games as much, but just following the games through the newspaper. And as you're younger, you keep up with your friends who maybe actually got in the game.
Yeah.
But always pull for the West back in the day.
I mean, I would admit, and I guess I hope everybody forgive me, but you pull for the Greensboro kids, and I really pull for the Grimsley kids.
Absolutely.
And, Albright family friends. It's going to be hard not to kind of want him to do well.
Exactly. Yep. And get involved.
Of course, you want everybody to do well, but you know what I'm saying.
And you got the soccer game. You got I think 2 Northern Guilford girls, Northwest Guilford girls, a couple of girls from Bishop McGuinness, and well represented locally in the soccer.
Always are.
Yeah, because the talent is good here in the Piedmont.
Right.
Very good. And there's always some very good Charlotte players too. Because Charlotte,
any urban area, you're going to get pretty good soccer probably.
I've seen a lot of games the past couple years where Charlotte comes in and knocks Page out of the playoffs. I guess Page is saying Charlotte beats us just about every year. So
they have upped their game since the 90s and 80s when Greensboro was top dog, and Raleigh. It was always us and Broughton.
Yeah, it was a guy at Page back years ago. Nobody's ever heard of this guy. His name was Zach Osborne.
I went to high school with him.
There you go.
He's a Grimsley guy.
And he was a cross country man.
He was
too. Yeah,
he was. Yeah. He was a good cross country runner.
Yes, he was, and he was a heck of a soccer coach too. Yeah, had some great talent.
And a good person.
Yeah,
good English teacher.
That's the best thing about those guys. I mean, guys like Mac Morris. Mac might have been a history teacher or whatever he taught, but those guys were outstanding teachers.
Mac and Joe and I both taught history. All 3 taught history, and Reed and David both teach English.
Reed Holmes English.
And David Rogers, who helps with the clinic,
That says a lot. Because you can't teach that without putting some academics out there somewhere. You just can't get by teaching those subjects, that's for sure.
Hope not.
Yeah, exactly. So tonight, starting times for the soccer games?
6:30 for the women, and because we don't play overtime, unless we get a rain delay, the men are going to be at 8:30. They'll warm up on field number 1, which is adjacent to Macpherson. And then they'll only take 10 minutes on the field, and we'll be going at it again.
Right.
Which is the really nice thing about the soccer is, you got time to go to the bathroom, go to concessions. We're starting another game.
Yeah. It's always good to have those multiple fields, too, to have that space to warm up on, because then you're ready to come down and take the field and go to work.
Yeah. Now, I will tell you that we're going to move to Grimsley next year.
For the soccer?
Well, it'll be cheaper.
Yeah.
And, the association is not awash in money.
Right.
So, yeah, we can save a little bit of money. It'll be much more convenient.
Sure.
We think we'll get a lot more fans than having to drive out to McPherson, frankly.
Exactly. What created the move from UNCG to McPherson? What created that move?
UNCG's policies became prohibitive financially.
Right.
And they were great to work with when we did. I mean, I loved being there. And Kathy back in the day.
Oh yeah, Kathy.
Good people. But the university itself put us in a position where Macpherson was much better option.
Mm-hmm. I tell you, the facility at UNCG seemed like it never changed. It always looked about the same. Always looked good. Was always in very good shape.
It's a gorgeous field.
Yeah.
But now you get, like tonight, under the tunnel, the stairs where the teams. Oh boy, is it hot!
Oh, wow,
I mean, if it's 92 out here, it's 110 under there.
Yeah, it's like being stuck in a room in a football game and they have the lightning delay to put you in that back room and you're locked in there in that locker room.
There's no air flowing down there.
Tough.
You know, and we only have 16 kids, so we have a rule: you have to play X amount of minutes. Soccer has never been a problem because they're asking to come out.
Absolutely, yeah. After a few runs up and down that field, chasing up.
And it's a bigger field. They're used to playing on a high school field.
How much bigger is it?
I think a legitimate soccer field is 55 yards by 120.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we'll be a little smaller at Jamieson than. Well, no, we took track out. We might have close to a legitimate field there.
That's good.
Might be a little short.
Right, but like you say,
but the high school kids won't complain.
Yeah, I thought about that last night with the basketball games too, because I think 2 of the squads had just 9 players last night. They'd have 10, so they had to run that system last night too, a little different than usual, because usually 5 in, 5 out.
But that's really better in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, with the West women, you had those 2 guards, Farmer and
Holyfield.
Holyfield, thank you.
Yeah.
Who you really wanted in there all the time, where you could squeeze some extra minutes out of
them.
Yeah,
exactly.
With that extra player not there.
Yeah, they took Holyfield out late in the game, and I said, get her back in. They finally did, but about a minute and a half to go.
Yeah.
And I said, get her back in there, because I told the guy beside me from the newspaper, I told him, I said, she's going to get 10 rebounds. Wait and see, because that girl.
She had 6 at half.
Yeah, she had 10 for the game, but I don't like watching that girl play.
She's about 3 or 4.
And
seems like
part of that Holyfield family out of Shelby, all those great athletes.
Her sister played a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm. And her cousin went to Tennessee on a full ride, Dax Holyfield. He was just a huge, big-time football player. There's just so much talent, that Holyfield family down there. And I love watching that kid.
Her uncle played at Wake in football.
Oh, yeah.
And coached in our game and was on the board in Aubrey. And the thing I like about her is she just plays so hard.
Oh, yeah.
If every kid on that floor would play as hard as she did, they can't imagine how good they'd be.
There was a little 5'3" guard, I think, either on the west or east. She also played very hard. Yeah, played extremely hard.
She drove South Carolina absolutely insane. Huh. She just ran through them the whole night.
I was going to say, she gets to the basket really well.
Well, they didn't have anybody could even slow her down. So she was MVP, and just give her the ball. And what was it? Freshman coach at Duke back when Virga played told him at halftime, screen for him or get out of his way. That's the way you feel about her.
See, I've been on a few basketball courts over the years, these outdoor courts, and you're working hard. You want to contribute to the win. You got some good talent. You got real good players you're playing with. You start seeing these guys scream, I don't need it. Well, man, what are we going to do here? You're just going to shoot all the time and let them go. But another good girl on that East team was the girl who shot the 3-pointers. Number 32 or 42.
She did.
She had that crook on her arm. It was almost like a crook. The arm was kind of turned in sideways.
Chavis, I think.
Now, the last one she hit was the bank shot, which was really something toward the end there.
At least something she shouldn't have taken, but
yeah, off the left side.
But it sure won the game for them.
Wow, the girls' game had some talent playing last night for sure. And the West team had some very good players out of the area, because they had a couple of guys from Mount Tabor. The kid from East Forsyth, all those guys showed well last night.
Tabor kids are always going to be well coached and disciplined. And, I mean, Andy, another muse.
Yeah, right.
Andy coached the game last year, I guess, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think he did. And they probably won too. I wouldn't be surprised, because the muse, Tom, Andy, Mike, they're always going to win.
Yeah, like. Mike won. I don't remember Tom's because he's been way back.
Yeah, but they definitely put it in.
Yeah.
So the basketball, the soccer tonight, and the football tomorrow. The football is really, talk about saving the best for last. No disrespect toward the other games, but for football, sometimes it is like saving the best for last.
It's our crown jewel.
Exactly, yeah.
And we will have fireworks.
Yeah,
so that's
I had a call about that today, and I tried to explain to the person that we'll not have fireworks in December because it's going to be played in the afternoon. Yeah. So, but this might be one of the last fireworks shows you may have. Possibly.
I guess we're sort of hoping it is,
Yeah.
We're not going to play a night in December, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, you're not, exactly.
But the coaches are really pleased with the kids they got, how hard they work, how pleasant they are to be around. And we had some replacements, but I know Coach Battle Holly on the East was saying that the kids he got in pleased him more than the ones he thought he was going to have.
Those good kids, yeah.
That's always nice.
Battle Holly, is he related to Jack Holly?
I don't know.
I had to look it up. You've heard the Jack Collie name.
Oh,
I
yeah.
When I saw his name, because I saw him in the playoffs, in the high school playoffs, because he's done well in the playoffs for several years.
Yeah.
I kept thinking, but then I saw him in person. So, well, that's the
Could
guys
be.
there.
They're both down east.
Down east guys, yeah, exactly. But you got some good West kids on here, too, on this football setup for tomorrow night, for Wednesday night, because you got the Ainsworth kid, big alum from Eastern Guilford. You got the two Grimsley kids.
Right.
Got the Albright kid. Got
Stinson.
Who, Khalil Stimson, he's a big kid, but he was actually the backup quarterback for the football team. He would have been the quarterback if Grimsley didn't pick up some other quarterbacks who came in. So he was on his way to being a quarterback at one time, but a very good athlete.
Yeah.
And very talented kid. And you got quite a few kids around the area.
We do.
From the area. Should make for a good fan attendance, I would think.
Well, we certainly hope so.
Yep. It
looks like the weather ought to be good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What are you expecting, I guess, from tomorrow night? You got the game coming. What about how does the clinic work now? The clinic, as far as the Coliseum goes.
Okay, we had soccer and baseball. We had Coach Pollard from Duke.
Oh, he's a great coach.
And
yeah.
Well, and he turned down his honorarium. He refused to take the money, which you always admire. And Coach Krzyzewski did too.
They did not take the money.
You appreciate guys that say, hey. In fact, the first one I ever remember was used to coach football at Wake. Oh, this is brought him back. The legend. My memory is so bad. But anyway, he was the first one. He says, Coach, y'all need it worse than I do. I don't want your money.
Right, that's unreal. Talk about giving back. That's really giving back.
You appreciate those folks. And so tomorrow football comes in. And, I think softball may be tomorrow. I think we had golf today. We had 10, so I can't keep up with it.
A lot going on.
I think I got them right here if you want it.
Tell you one thing about Coach Pollard. He was at Appalachian for several years and did a heck of it. He coached some local kids up there, the McCann kids, and then the Davis kid from Northeast went to play for him at Appalachian. He went to Duke, and he's got Duke back in the NCAAs. Really going on now. Yeah, that's the whole list right there.
That is full-time, 3 days.
That's a lot of clinic.
That's a lot of stuff.
Does the clinic actually close out during the day on Wednesday,
Yes.
and then the football game actually closes the entire week out?
Yeah, we have dropped the Thursday. Football guys felt like one day was sufficient because we weren't getting Division I coaches. Because the NCAA, in their infinite stupidity, said, you have an all-star game, you can't have Division I coaches there. And we said, but they don't ever see the kids. They're at two schools out in the county or away from the Coliseum. There's never a chance they can cross paths. Well, no, you can't do it.
Wow.
They would rather tell you no than look into something and say, yeah, this deserves an exception or whatever.
Look, yeah.
It's just very frustrating. But with us going to December now, we can invite any football coach in the country we want.
Right.
And I'm sure that Joe, being a Clemson guy, will invite Dabo pretty soon. And I know, Clausen and Elko would kill to be able to speak to the high school coaches in the state. And,
Well, you got me scratching my head. I still want to think of that Wake Forest coach that you were talking about. That's still got me wondering who that guy might have been.
Driving me
sure,
nuts.
Well, sure it wasn't Cal Stahl. Let's go back probably too far.
No, that's too far.
Yeah, he was about 65.
He ended up going to Baylor and rescuing Baylor's program.
Oh, yeah, Jim Grove.
Thank you, Jim Grobe.
Grove, yeah. Al Grove, right. Jim Grove.
I got his phone number in my phone, and I couldn't even remember it.
Yeah.
That happens when you get my age.
It's amazing, though. You bring up that name, Jim Grove. I've not thought about him in years. He did a great job at Wake, resurrected the program, and then Clausen comes in, just a little scratchy first, and just maintains and keeps it going. It's amazing. Wake Forest.
Considering how small they are, it's remarkable.
And Bill Dooley was there briefly too. Coach Dooley was there for a while. And the coach went to Kansas City, coached at Texas, John Makovic. I thought of his name. Yeah. He was there, and John did well there. But boy, they had some lean years there too back in the days.
They
had a good Grimsley quarterback there at one time too.
You're talking about Mike Elkins.
Mike Elkins,
he played for Makovic.
Yeah, he was an excellent quarterback. But it just shows
he plays for Kansas City.
Yeah, he did too, didn't he? Sure did. Elkins, he was out there, I think, almost about near the same time as Dino Hackett, possibly about near the same time. Back in the old days, because Dino was famous for the pickup truck incident when they had the shotguns during the strike that time. That was his famous, or one of his famous incidents there. But it's just amazing all these names that come up because you just ran off some Wake Forest guys, and that's a lot of Wake Forest football history right there.
Just such a fine person and
you could when he
great
talked.
Example.
Yeah, when he talked, you say he was just a genuine, very good guy.
He reminded me of Grant Taft.
Yeah, Grant Taft was a good Christian man. Back in Baylor. Baylor Bears.
He got Baylor going, and then Baylor went and got in some real trouble. And then Grobe went down there when they cleaned house and said, we need somebody with an impeccable reputation to save this program. And then, of course, Baylor was back last year they were moving up.
Yeah, because at one time the Carolina Panthers coach, he was at Baylor for about a year or so. The guy was at Panthers, now is at Nebraska.
Right.
He was there for a while. It's just a great connections, all these different coaches and people. And you've had so many people on these staffs coming for these clinics over the years, and some of your clinicians are kind of like wild-worthy clinicians. You got some of those guys in their early days, then they wanted to become some really big-time names as time went on.
I mean, you go back as far many years as you want and say, give me a name, Lou Holtz. Yeah, he was here.
Yeah,
Bobby Knight. Yeah, he was here. 1,500 people went to that one.
Wow, Bobby Knight, amazing, isn't it?
You name somebody, we probably had them.
Yeah, if you start talking about people, would find it hard to even believe that, because Bobby Knight, after he left here, just got huge.
Yeah.
How he became.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing how it changed over the years. And you mentioned those names. Who'd you mention before Bobby Knight? Looking back at that again. You mentioned Lou Holtz, because Lou Holtz could have come here. Did he come here at NC State, or were you been married?
I think he was probably at NC State.
Yeah, because his staff went on to do a bunch of crazy things too.
And then he went to Notre Dame, of course.
Yeah, and I think he even had at one time, maybe on his staff, or after he left, was on the staff. Pete Carroll was on the staff at NC State at one time, which is kind of an amazing thing too. You think about all those things over the years. Boy, just lost Dick Sheridan a couple weeks ago, who was an outstanding coach. But I mean,
anybody that's been at Duke, Carolina, or Wake or State, we've probably had, except in the last few years.
You talked about that. We talked about this before. It's kind of interesting to me was the fact that we talked about all the guys who were outstanding in one sport, maybe football, but they played basketball. Just want to play one more basketball game. I think Sonny Jurgensen did that, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah, out of Wilmington, New Hanover. Yeah.
I don't think he was. They do the star stuff. Now, I don't think he'd have been a 5-star high school quarterback because Wilmington was just sort of way down there in the East. And, he's good, but he's a pretty good basketball. He's an athlete. I mean, if you watched him in the Redskins, he'd throw passes underhanded, left-handed. It was just like, how did he do that?
He's like a Patrick Mahomes back in the prehistoric days.
Except that he couldn't move.
Right. Yeah, he wasn't fast.
He had to do it from the pocket.
He had to do it, yeah. He was forced to do it.
Because he was a little heavy in the belly.
He was. He didn't look. You wouldn't think he'd be a basketball player. Look at him.
You wouldn't think he'd be an athlete.
Right. Especially when he used to smoke all those cigars, too, back in his day. But, you think about that, Will, that's where Roman Gabriel came from down that way, too.
He did.
Yeah. Did he play in your games also?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he did, yeah. The old coach down there was Leon Brogdon,
That's
right?
correct.
Back in the old days, yeah.
He and Coach Jamieson were I guess, two biggest names in the state.
Mm-hmm. And
maybe Dave Harris in Charlotte.
Then later on, Coach Simeon over in High Point made a pretty good name.
Yeah,
exactly. Tony Simeon.
Mm-hmm.
Another name from the past, because I want to mention these names.
One thing with Tony that a lot of people don't realize is he was a great champion for women's athletics.
That's a good thing.
He really he helped them probably more around locally than Title IX did.
Yeah, and he
didn't get a lot of credit for it.
Woman
he deserved it.
Woman in that program too, Sue Shin. Remember her back in the day?
Absolutely. She was a good friend of mine.
She was the one who kind of got a lot of women's things going too, because I think at one time she was actually the AD at Dudley, or assistant AD at Dudley. She left Sedgwood over there for a brief period of time, so she was really a kind of a barnstormer went out across that trail.
I think you're talking about Mary Jo Lentz.
Might have been. She's another one too. Was in that same vineyard. Yeah.
Sue was at Andrews her whole career, I believe.
Yeah. Both of those ladies were big into the women's sports back in the day when
right.
there wasn't much going on. What about this other name, real quick? Because this name came up about the day. What about this name out of Durham? Because this guy was a quarterback and a basketball player. And back in the day, I don't think he did much in college, but he went to Duke. And Brad Evans was a player back in this day.
Brad Evans went to State.
Did he go to State? I think Johnny went to State. I thought Brad went to Duke.
Oh, Brad.
Yeah, Brad. You have to look him up because Brad was such a talent back in the day. I know he played in one of the All-Star games. That guy.
Do you know what school?
That's a good question. Probably Hillside, I would think. Even back in the day, Hillside was producing so many talents.
But Hillside's almost always been all black. I wonder. It seems like Evans is a white kid.
Who would have been the Duke school back in that day, I wonder? Or the Durham school back in the day?
Durham High School, probably.
Playing Durham High School, yeah. Interesting.
It's probably in that program.
Yeah, that's a good program. I picked one up last night. A lot of good information there. But Brad Evans was one of the main. You mentioned Johnny Evans went to State. He was also an outstanding athlete.
That's who I thought you were talking about.
Mm-hmm. What's about the football game? Again, the times and all the activities going on with it.
8 o'clock kickoff,
mm-hmm.
and we will do fireworks at halftime. We got cheerleaders again, and
that's all.
Which is really great because the AD Stephanie Smith down at Southern Alamance puts it all together, and she brings them up, and we don't have to do anything except take the stuff that she sends us and put it in the program, and she's got them all organized, and it's a nice touch for a high school game to have some cheerleaders.
Well, those
there.
cheerleaders did a good job last night. They probably were hungry when they left, but
They
those
enjoy
girls
it.
they worked hard.
They do.
They really worked hard, because there was a couple of those stunts they were doing almost nearly failed, but they saved the stunt, and then all you gotta do is watch the facial expressions on those girls during those stunts. You know if it's gonna be good or bad as far as it's going on. And you had a dignitary last night too at the basketball game for the boys.
Yeah, Mark Robinson, our lieutenant governor, is he's a Grimsley grad, so
Yeah.
Joe taught him. Joe Franks taught him,
Wow.
and I knew him. And actually, when Mark was first elected, he invited Joe and me down to his office just to talk about Grimsley and Coach Hickey. He wanted to know about Coach Hickey, and so we had a good time doing that. And then we thought, we ought to ask him to come up to do that, and maybe we could get. Maybe the governor would do something or what for the 75th.
Right.
And so no sooner had it been posted on social media. I hope people appreciate the humor in this, but we got complaints from our Democratic coaches that we had a Republican
Right.
tossing up the ball. We said, well, we'd love to have the governor. So there was contact with the governor's office, but he couldn't make it. So he was going to do the coin toss at the football game.
That
we
would
hoped,
fit well,
but
yeah.
he couldn't do it. So I don't care what party they are. If they're the governor, we'd be happy to have him, or the lieutenant governor.
We have to get Josh Stein as a backup in the future. See what he says.
Well, see what he does in the election.
Exactly, yeah.
I don't think Attorney General is going to excite anybody.
Not yet, but I think he's going to try to shake that race up for sure.
No, I'm sure he will.
But interesting too about Mark last night when his first toss is kind of like we're going back to Hakeem Olajuwon and Manute Bol trying to get to the ball.
This is all on me, because when he got there, I said, Mark, I got to teach you how to do it. I don't want you to look bad. So we went out in the hall, but the hall's not but about 8 feet.
Yeah,
and so we got him doing it properly, and I said, just remember, these are tall guys. You got to get it above them. I guess he took me literally.
Yeah.
Because he launched it.
For the Raptors, yeah.
But the second one was a good
second
toss.
one was nice. I mean, to be able to change.
So for a second try for a guy, it's pretty good.
Oh, yeah. To adapt that much on the second try was not bad at all.
Because, a lot of officials can't do it very well.
We had one official that I recognized some years ago. He was an area guy. I think he's moved on to another town now. But saw Roy Turner there yesterday. Good to see Roy around again.
Roy is the head of the AD's Association. And so they're good friends with us.
Yeah.
We work a lot together.
Southeast Guilford man back in his day.
Yeah, sure was.
I think he might have played baseball maybe at Dudley back in the day when he was
I
coming
think you're
through.
right.
Yeah, he's kind of
I
interesting
think he
background.
coached there.
I think he also coached there too.
Yeah.
He sure did coach baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Roy Turner was a big-time baseball man. He got the Southeast Guilford weight room going. They got a big weight room there. It's in place now when he came and did quite a bit at Southeast. So he went down toward Wilmington next, I think. Ended up down that way.
He was at Ashley in Wilmington,
Yeah,
yes.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people in town this week. Do you ever hear from people calling you up trying to, how do we get those discount tickets? Can you
have discount tickets.
Can you get me in? Do you get those kind of calls?
Not much anymore, because it's only $10 a ticket.
Yeah.
I mean, now we'll probably go to 50. Whatever the state charges for the state finals, we'll move to next year. We've got to make money that's reasonable. We don't want to keep people away from the game because we're charging $25 or whatever,
right.
For an all-star game. But we can't keep giving tickets away either at the cost of what it's just prohibitively expensive to do all-star games.
One thing about it, like you say, it's not cheap at all to put on the fireworks show. That's not cheap either.
No, we actually got up with Donald Moore, and he put me in touch with their guy, and so we know we got a person that's dependable and going to shoot a good show. And,
yeah.
But, I questioned him about the cost because it was 50% more than the last show we shot 3 years ago. 50%.
That's a big increase.
And I said, this is really a lot. And he said, you ought to see our costs. All the fireworks come from China.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about
basically,
that too. Yeah, I heard those stories.
or overseas. Stories. And then I went to the Sports Foundation and the Greensboro Sports Commission and said, hey guys, it's our 75th. We bring $10 million into Greensboro every year. Can you help us out a little bit? And so they found funding for fireworks, and we gave each coach at the clinic, so we ordered like 7,500 pins and a notepad with our logo.
Yeah.
What do you call it? Not embossed, but
Engraved.
And I, faintly done.
Yeah.
Watermarked, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So that was a very nice gesture on their part. But the fireworks are courtesy of them.
GreensboroSports Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Well, they put us in contact with the donor, but I haven't asked the donor if it's okay to say it, so I'm not.
Right. Gotcha. What about in the old days? I always thought the fireworks was the name that came up. I associated with the fireworks. This guy named Jim Womack. Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, so I didn't come in wrong.
He had about 3 fingers on each hand.
Who did he work for? The paper or
yes,
WFYT?
He was a photographer, I believe.
Okay. He was known for the fireworks show then.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was a grizzled old, funny guy.
Yeah.
And we shot him inside the stadium and falling.
I've been to some shows like that. Yeah, I've been to those kind of shows.
Ladies' pocketbooks and people's hair.
Yeah, I've been to those kind of shows. Yeah, you just kind of brush it off, hope it set you on fire.
Back then, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
You weren't going to get sued.
Wow. So he was a news and record man that did it for you. Mm-hmm. Amazing. A lot of people have come through. I mean, news and record was such a big part of this thing back in the day. It was like they founded it, didn't they?
Yeah, we wouldn't exist without the financial backing they gave us to start with, and then the football games were, Jamieson was close to being packed all the time back in the day, and that paid for the clinic.
Yeah.
Coach got the keys to the stadium at 4:00 of the All-Star game. I mean, it was the first game in the stadium.
Right.
By 4 hours probably.
Tell you what, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And the work they've done the past few years, to commend those that have done that work to come into the stadium and get it looking good again. It really looks good right now.
Yeah, Ethan is Albright's done a fine job as an athletic director, and particularly in convincing people to invest. But then Darryl Brown's coaching and winning the state championship and coming close last year sure doesn't hurt when you're trying to raise money.
Doesn't hurt one bit. No, people are willing to support
and I know
that.
Paige is putting turf in.
Yeah.
We're going to hold a combine over at Page for our football December stuff a year from now, or in spring. And, I saw Dudley got a huge grant from the county commissioners.
Wow.
Be interesting to see what they do with $50,000.
I know they're been working hard on that new scoreboard, the video scoreboard.
Probably.
They're looking to get that put in, yeah.
Because Paige got one. Of course, Ethan had to get a bigger one.
Right.
Dudley will probably have to get one bigger than that.
That's what I think it's all about. Yeah, it's all about that. And Paige even got an indoor little video scoreboard.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they got an indoor. Yeah.
And we haven't done that.
Yeah.
We're painting the floor at Grimsley. I know that.
Getting it redone.
Completely painted. Yeah.
Wow, interesting. But it will still be the Phil Weaver court, though.
Yeah, he guaranteed me that.
Guaranteed. That's a good thing to have. I like seeing that
they're
on
putting
there.
the skyline of Greensboro on the side, which is unusual, I'd say. But
yeah, I've seen
it's different.
Seen the old Southern North Carolina logo in a lot of courts over the years. Yeah, not bad at all.
This will be different.
As you close things out, get to finish the week up. As soon as it's done on Wednesday night, the football game is done, and you begin to see the lights go off here at the stadium. Is that when the week is done for you, or what do you guys do after that?
Well, right over there is a pack of cards with coaches' names on it, and I'm getting ready to start inviting them to coach in the next year's games.
Wow, so you're thinking about the new coaches already?
We've already selected them at the board meeting Sunday, and I've already pulled the cards, and I'm ready to make phone calls. In fact, I might be doing it if we weren't doing this.
Wow, calling people for next year's game.
And then we'll come in Thursday and have staff lunch where what we do, we could do better.
Yeah.
What we do really good that we want to keep doing, and that sort of thing, and commit people to the future. And,
right.
We meaning Tim Vi and Reed Holmes and I'll sit down and talk about December's football game. We'll try to get that ironed out as best as possible.
If Reed Holmes' dad was still here, Jim Holmes, he would do a great job for you. For that game. Heck of a referee back in his day, Jim Holmes.
Yeah, he called some of my games.
Did he really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah, I know him.
He was a heck of an official.
Good guy.
Yeah, heck of an official. Speaking about, you talk about the new coaches for next year. We haven't even touched on this yet. I'm glad you brought it up because it gave me a lot of foot in my head here. The ball went off. What about Kennedy Tinsley, head coach of the West? And you got Norman Weeks, assistant coach of the West.
Yeah.
He's actually assistant coach, now to be assistant coach. And this is his last game. He said he's hanging up after this. That's a monumental time for him.
You'd be surprised how many times that happens.
Make that the last game.
Does.
Yeah.
Well, the board sort of know, football guys particularly, maybe basketball and soccer to some degree, they know who's getting out. there's a good grapevine there, and it'll come up in the meeting that, hey, Kennedy's retiring. Let's get him in while we can, because you have to coach that year to coach in the game. You can't come back as a retiree.
Right.
We knew Kennedy from Southeast,
yep.
and we had a summit, we called it one time. We got 2 people from each region, and Kennedy represented his, and we just talked about all the issues in high school sports.
That was at the clinic?
No, that was here.
Here at your office?
Just little 20 people meeting,
mm-hmm.
and Kennedy really had good insights, and he really impressed us with his organizational, we thought, abilities and that sort of thing. And
well, Norman
he's a fine person to work with.
He's a smart guy. I think he did some clinic work one time and spoke sometime. But I know Norman Weeks from the former Page, who came to Grimsley coach, he has been a heck of an assistant coach over the years. I don't think he's been a head coach in football, but he was a head coach in baseball at one time. Mm-hmm. But as far as football goes, I mean, he coached that Page team with Coach Gillespie 2011 with James Summers at quarterback. They won that state championship. And he was with Grimsley, but they won their title a couple years ago in the spring. So Norman Weeks is not a better coach around than that guy.
He's going into the ministry.
Is he really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Very fitting for him, because he was a military man at one time.
Okay.
Yeah, because when I see him, I always refer to him as he's Norman Weeks. I call him Norman Schwarzkopf from back in the military day, because he is a heck of a leader. Mm-hmm. And the kids really respect Mr. Weeks too.
They must.
Because he's another of those guys you mentioned earlier with Mac Morris and Reed Holmes and yourself, the academic teachers. I think he was a history teacher at Page also.
Yeah, he taught at Grimsley.
Yeah, he taught that here too then. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Tell you, Norman Weeks a good one. Like you mentioned, Kenny Tinsley a good one. You've had some good ones over the years. Who are some of the high school coaches you kind of look back on from Grimsley? How many Grimsley coaches have actually coached in this game you remember maybe from over the years? Quite a few?
Well, Coach Jamieson, of course, was the first.
Yeah.
And, Hart coached in it, and I've coached in it, and Coach Brown a couple years ago, and Coach Smouse was 92. I can remember that one because that was the lightning delay for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Basketball, there's only been Coach Jamieson and me. We've only had about 5 coaches. So Darren probably be around pretty soon. He's had some success, and
certainly people
certainly respect. He's such a fine gentleman.
And that's another guy who's a very good teacher too. From
yes, he's won Teacher of the Year at Grimsley. Kids love him in the classroom as well. Football, we hadn't had a lot of success until Smouse got here. So he and Brown and Jamieson be the only ones that really had sustained a success. Yeah, right. So that would settle it there. And Herc has not. I believe Coach Martineau might have coached in the game a couple years ago in soccer. And Herc did men and women, and I think so did Martineau for a while. So we haven't had a lot of soccer coaches either.
Well, I bet you one thing, as far as administration goes, you mentioned Ethan Albright being the AD. He has been helping to resurrect this school, make it look a lot better. I may be wrong, I'm just guessing. I think you probably pretty good support from Jed O'Donnell. I think he's like the principal here.
Yeah, I mean, there's principals that hate athletics, and there's principals that absolutely love it, and he's one of those. I know that, and I don't even have anything to do with school anymore hardly, right. But yeah, he's very supportive of athletics, is what Ethan tells me. Yeah. And I can see it publicly,
Yeah, I remember him back in the day. He was down at Kaiser. When he was at Kaiser, they had all those very good Kaiser young teams with Travis Shaw, and they won like every game with middle school basketball for a couple of years. And all those, he came here, all those kids came with him, and it just kind of was a transformation when he came over and made it look good. And you had some pretty good principals over the years, and you were here too back in your day, right?
Mr. Glenn was sort of a second father to me in a sense, as was Coach Jamieson.
Was it Lodi Glenn?
Lodi Glenn.
Yeah.
My dad had just died when I was a junior in college, so 2 years later I was working for Mr. Glenn.
Exactly.
And learned an awful lot. We've got a tough situation here with the association right now. Somebody's upset with us. And
right.
Mr. Glenn taught me the ability to try. Sometimes it's better just not to say anything and let things calm down before you have to counter an argument. Right. Even though you're right, you've got to be.
Got to give it some time.
It's just better to let things calm down. Right. And people sit back and say, "Okay, let's discuss it rationally." So he was superb. Problem is I didn't work under some of them. So
interesting thing too about Mr. Glenn and also Mr. Clendenin at Page. I think they may have crossed paths over the years. Those were two guys that were probably as well thought of as any principals that ever come through the Gate City, we call it.
Yeah, Clendenin was there when Mac was coaching and when I was starting, and I think Clendenin was famous for saying that I'm with you, win or tie.
That's pretty good. I love that. Wow.
I think we beat them one night or something, and the next day Mac walked in and Clendenin said, "Where's your next job?" or something. He was a competitor.
Wow.
He really wanted to win, but he was very supportive of athletics. And,
well, if you get that kind of attitude on the athletic field and the academics, I mean, you got a pretty good combination going there, because those kids will be forced to learn, and there's nothing wrong with being forced to learn, because you get it in your head, till you're with you, it's going to turn out to do some good things.
Right.
Good things will come about it. What's been the best thing about this year's clinic so far? You've had some ups and downs, some here's and there's.
Oh, Mike Krzyzewski and Roy Williams.
Take that with you forever.
That's hand down. I had a guy stop me in the hall today who's been coaching up in the mountains for 30 years or whatever, and I thought he was going to cry. I mean, he said, "I've been here for 40 years. That's the best thing I've ever seen."
Wow.
And I think the gals were so proud because the Coliseum did a fantastic job with our logo was on the scores table, and Mike and Roy were in front of it, but far enough that you could see the whole scores table, and the electronic ring around the top seating said North Carolina Coaches Association, and then around the scoreboard at the top it had our 75th logo. So I mean, when you see the show, you're gonna see us. There's no way they can hide us. And I think our guys are really proud that these two Hall of Fame, I mean, some have said Mike's the greatest coach ever. Or that could be argued with Wooden, certainly, but two great coaches would come and give them 90 minutes of their time and thoughts. And I really want to get figures from the Coliseum, but if they said 3,000 or even more, I wouldn't at all be surprised, because we had 5 middle sections full, and then the next section on either side. So 9 sections we had people in on the bottom bowl.
Wow.
And if Mike and Roy were talking, there was not a peep in the audience. I mean, they were rapt attention.
Boy.
It was really remarkable.
It's going to be interesting, too, the numbers that watch it when it comes on TV, because I'm sure
Yeah,
those numbers will be huge, too.
And I'm thinking, boy, I must be a lousy businessman. Somehow we should have made some money off of this thing.
Yeah, that's always an afterthought, no doubt about that.
Yeah.
And thinking about that in turn, I guess we really can't say there is anything bad about this year's clinic, because that was so good. I mean, the other stuff washes away.
No, but Joe said we have, today speaking, 11 national champion winners, not 11 different clinicians, but clinicians who have won 11 national championships.
Hard to beat that.
And that, Pollard's never won one, but he's been to the, super regional twice.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Joe and doing most of it now, and Mac, they get amazing people. Minor sports that your fans, unless they're a fan of that sport, they don't even know these names. But the coaches, my gosh, that guy, he's top of the line. Like we've got the 2 softball ladies are former national champions, played for Florida State. So they're pretty good.
Oh, not bad at all. That's right. Yeah. And you said the future, you think there's always a good chance, the outside chance, in the future you might see Dabo Sweeney here. That's a possibility anyway.
Well, Joe knows him.
Yeah.
I mean, Joe's a Clemson guy through and through.
Yeah.
And, I would be surprised if not. I mean, Clemson recruits North Carolina heavily.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, they're after both the Grimsley kids I know.
Right.
And I'm sure others around here thereafter. So it would be in their best interest if they came and spoke.
And that's a hotbed time, too, in December for that recruiting. That time of the year is hot.
Well, the clinic, though, will be in the...
Yeah, still in the summer.
It'll still be in the summer.
Leading up to it, yeah. I'm thinking about December again for the football, because you've always used to be football coaches being at the Football Associated Clinic, but clinics will still be in the summer, and then the football game will be in December. That's coming up soon, actually this December. And have you got the date set again?
17th.
17th?
17th. It's a Sunday, and I don't like that, but we'll bring in a chaplain or something from a college to do something for the kids in the morning.
Huh.
But that'll allow us to check them out at 11 or so, which is normal checkout. We just save the day's hotel.
Right. And
which for 45 rooms is almost $5,000.
Good savings
or
there. So Sunday, December 17th at 2 p.m.
Mm-hmm. Jamieson Stadium.
Kickoff coming right here.
Yeah, pray for no snow.
Yeah, I remember one year the state association. It happened one year on the
Yep.
They had to play on Sunday.
They did.
They did, and there was still some snowing around that day. Yeah. Now, how close do you work with the association on these games at all?
Yeah, not so much for the games. It's an overall. I go to the national meetings. I was head of our national coaches leaders for 9 years, and actually Joe is now. But we got 44 organizations across the country, and you wouldn't believe how they fight with their state associations, because they're always trying to accomplish different things. We're supposed to fight for coaches. Well, that's sometimes or often in conflict with what the state association needs to make things run smoothly for whoever. But over the years, we've found a way we're actually good friends with their staff. And as soon as we're through, we'll sit down, Joe and Mac and I, and probably Reed will go sit down with Q and Trey and Brad, and we'll talk about what we're going to do next year at the clinic. See, they put on 3 rules clinics this year, which counts as their mandatory rules clinic.
Right.
And they're going to go over rules about eligibility and the stuff that an AD might not tell his coach properly, and that I as a coach better know, because I could get my school or my team kicked out of the playoffs or something if I don't know.
Yeah.
So they do that. They come and they set up an information booth in the hallway so that, usually it's ADs talking to Chapel Hill. You don't call the office as a coach. But here as a coach, you can come up and ask them a question directly, or say, hey, shot clock coming up, I don't want it, or I want it, and this is why, because that's a big issue right now. We used to give joint awards, and we don't do that anymore just because of cost, but there are just a whole lot of ways. We advertise in each other's programs for what little that's worth. We just have a lot of presence. We have presence on each other's board.
Yeah.
They sit on ours, we sit on theirs in an advisory capacity.
And there's kind of a new operation, too, got more involved with the state association, because I saw a rep from this new group last night. They're fairly new to us, but they've been a while. It's the National Federation of High Schools. They're also involved some ways now, too, I guess.
Well, now that's the overseeing group for the whole country.
Right.
And they make the rules by which each state plays. So the North Carolina High School Athletic Association belongs to the National Federation.
And that's their governing body?
Yes.
Gotcha.
And they put out the rule books and whatever. So if they pass something, North Carolina has to do it. And then Grimsley and Page and Dudley and Smith join the NCHSAA. It is a voluntary organization, contrary to what some state senators tell you.
Yeah.
Nobody has to be in it. But
Right.
if you want to be in the state playoffs that everybody wants, then you have to join. And you agree to follow the rules. And that, to everybody who's on the outside or inside it from the coaches or school's perspective, that's the way it ought to run. It shouldn't be run by the state government or the state board of education.
Yeah, the state government should run it one year because they want to run it that year, and then turn it back over to the other guy the next year. Who's going to run it? It should run it all the time.
Well, I'll tell you what, if the state High School Athletic Association goes away, somebody's got more headaches than they'll absolutely know what to do with.
Right.
I mean, and nationally, ours is so highly respected. I mean, it is top of the group. I mean, like I said, I meet with 44 other state associations, and you ought to hear some of them talking about how bad theirs are. And Joe and I are sitting there saying, yeah, no, we get along pretty well. Ours does a good job. I mean, they've saved their money. They got $42 million.
They have quite an endowment, yeah.
But that $42 million, I think 33 of it's spoken for. And their budget is, $6 million? So they've got less than 2 years reserves to call on, and that's what nonprofits like us are supposed to have, is 2 years reserves.
Saved up, yeah.
And, I mean, if the Coliseum fell down one year, what would we do?
Where are you going to go? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to High Point Central that one year because of the football being a lot being paved at Grimsley. I had to go to Central that one year.
And your attendance is down and your costs are up.
Yeah.
So, their money is earmarked for scholarships. It's named for this. It's named for that. It's earmarked for educational programs. It's earmarked for tons of different things. That money can't be touched. The state legislature can't touch it. It's legally in a certain pot. And, they made it out to where the public thinks they're just hoarding all this money and charging fines.
Saving it up for vacations maybe or something like that, yeah.
Well, they think they're charging fines just to be mean. They're charging fines to make people do things right.
Right.
And with no fines now, Q was telling us Sunday that people just aren't getting paperwork in. And she's had people tell her, said, well, if we break the rule, you can't fine us. What are you going to do to us?
Boy.
Well, that's not good.
It's not good for your school to be represented like that, that's for sure.
No, but it's not good that you can't make people do things that need to be done for an organization to run smoothly.
Right. And in the past, those guys were almost like icons. The old guys like Simon Terrell and Charlie Adams, those leaders over the years, those guys were looked upon as being guys who just kind of ran that show and ran it right.
Q got stuck in a bad time, and Charlie was a consummate politician, and Q's not. She's a former coach and a good person, and she's not the one that's going to put herself out in front of everybody. Charlie loved to be in the limelight and out there, and that's.
Well, they had a man at one time though who was a very good spokesman. He stepped down because I think he was talking about Rick Strunk was one of the best people of that group.
Wasn't he ever?
Yeah, I'm glad you agree with me. We definitely agree on that because Rick Strunk. I mean, if you want a guy that's going to handle the show and kind of be behind the scenes, sometimes he's going to get the job done every time. I think he's from up around Hickory somewhere, his home area. Where's he from?
Yeah, home.
Up that way. But the thing about Strunk was that guy got the job done. He did it with professionalism.
Rick was a Morehead scholar. He and I are good friends. In fact, talking about working together, I was chair of the State Association Scholarship Committee for years. And Rick sat in with me as their rep. And so that's where we got to be good buddies. And he still helps us on occasion. But his knowledge of the press, and of course he was SID at Furman for several years.
That's good stuff there.
Award winner, of course.
Right.
Just bright as can be, and he is still the MC at the North Carolina State Hall of Fame, Athletics Hall of Fame,
I see.
Sports Hall of Fame, I think they call it.
Wow.
Yeah, he's top notch. Even if he went to Carolina, he's top notch.
He's one of the best, I would say that, because when he stepped down, after he stepped down, it was like there were several things that started changing quite a bit.
Yeah.
People used to go to that association and seemed like they went there and they stayed there for what seemed like forever.
It's true. Yeah.
And now people like James Alverson was their media man for a while.
Yeah.
And James
did a good job.
Did a very good job, but didn't stay a whole long time.
Well, right now they're looking at it. Hey, am I going to have a job? Is the state legislature going to disband us?
Got to think about the future.
Yeah, I mean, if I were in their position, a young person or with a family, I'd have to think seriously if a good job came up. Maybe I better take it.
Since we're talking a minute, see again for a while, get this good conversation going. One more name to drop in here. While I was on my website, on my email, several months back, and I'm conversing back and forth, getting some information from the North Carolina State Games.
Okay.
So talking about them, I start working on that, and I said, well, gosh, I see this name here, whatever. I said, we had a girl here at Grimsley years ago. It was a great basketball player. Her name was Roxanne Newman. She came out and said, I am Roxanne Newman. I said, well, dog, how good is this? It was a great kid.
They're at our clinic. Just they're in the exhibition hall, and I went and got to see her today. Yeah, she was my captain in the year we finished second. And,
she was a captain.
If she hadn't broken her finger, I'm convinced we'd have won the game because we were ahead, and they made a run, and she just couldn't play. She broke it like the week before. And if she could have just been in there, because she calmed everybody down, she was one of those, she could shoot. But, she was no super athlete by any means. But every girl on the team listened to what she said and did what she said. And she was the glue that held us together and everything, in and on and off the floor.
So no surprise.
Great kid.
No surprise she's got the job she does now with this group here.
She's smart too.
Because I was just trying to converse back and forth. I need to get this up. I do remember a kid from Grimsley by the name. That's me. Yeah, and her dad.
Andy, you have a great memory, I'll tell you.
Well,
I wish I did.
Too much. I try, when I think about it once, I'm going to try to plant it in my head and bring it up later so I can do something with it. But her dad, if you want to go downtown to the courthouse, you want to fight a battle, her dad, Howard Newman, I think it was.
He was
district attorney, I think it was.
Correct,
One of the toughest guys, but a great guy and very professional. But when you go down there, you mess with Howard Newman, you're not going to come out a winner, I don't think.
I see his interactions with us. You'd never know that.
Oh, no.
And his mother was a middle school coach.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, PE teacher.
Yeah.
Good family.
One more family, because I was at the doctor's office yesterday over on Battleground, the eye doctor. I go once a year, fortunately, things are going good there. But anyway, my doctor is Dr. John Scott. Not to give him a play, but he's a doctor, so I saw the guy I was seeing. Like I was telling him, because you go to the eye doctor, the first person sees you, the nurse sees you, she gets you does all the stuff. She does all the tests. Then you sit in the doctor's room there and wait forever for him to come in.
Yeah.
Finally comes in. I said, well, I was sitting there thinking about back when I first came to see you guys years ago, the doctor was here, and I had my contact broken in my eye in half in a basketball game. I used to lose a lot of those hard contacts. I'd be seeing a doctor probably once a year to get a new contact or have one broken and it's bleeding like crap. But anyway, I said, I was thinking back to the day when Dr. Buscemi was here.
Yep.
Dr. Buscemi was our doctor, and it made me think about Jackie Buscemi.
Yeah.
Because I used to see Dr. Buscemi and his wife come to the Grimsley games. They come on, and Jackie wouldn't play a ton, but Jackie would get in. I always say, that's kind of neat to see her out there.
She was a soccer player.
Yeah, there you go. That's right.
But she did win a game for us, taking the charge right at the end of the game.
Huh.
She was quick, fast.
Yeah.
She wasn't a basketball player, but she played hard.
Funny thing about it is, we talked about all the girls off the Division I team you had, Division I players years ago, but I was thinking about Roxanne and about Buscemi. It's players like that are kind of the ones you sometimes tend to forget, but sometimes they're some of the most important players because they make it a team, I guess you'd say.
Yeah. Certainly Roxanne was one of the outstanding leaders I've ever coached, boys or girls.
Very tough.
Just had that knack.
Yep, sometimes it's that way. Well, Coach, as far as it goes, Coach Weaver, you leave out here on Tuesday. Your stop will be soon. I guess you'll be up on Highway 29 North headed toward Bryant Park.
Yep.
And looking forward to that game tonight.
Yeah.
How soon do you get there for the game? Do you like show up at maybe an hour before? You got to have a schedule, routine, I'm sure.
In our business, you better hire good people to work for you, with you is a better term. And Herc DeGraw helped start soccer in '92 with me. He's been in charge of every soccer match since we started. And he's in charge tonight, so I don't need to get there till 6 or so.
That's got to feel good.